Hello everyone, welcome to the next video in the series in which we are making Notes app, and in this video we will write integration test. Start writing integration test for our repository. So before writing test, we need to add the required dependencies for our tests. So just need to copy these dependencies. You can find these from the video description below. Paste it in here and sync the project. Actually, I'm not having the sync option here. Let's go it from here and sync project with Gradle files. Okay, so dependency synchronization process have been completed. So now we will move to our repository, for which we want to write the integration test. We'll go to our core, domain, and repository, notes repository. So in domain layer we have write our interface for our repository, and the data layer is providing the implementation for that notes repository, and we want to test this repository implementation class methods with different possible inputs. So for that we will press Alt Enter in here and tap on create test. Notes repository j04, actually we have already imported it, not need to tap on this fix button, and press on OK and select the unit and this option and press OK. So why I'm calling this integration test? Because whenever we are writing test for a function which involves two or more classes, then that test would be called an integration test. Whenever we are testing only a single class, then we are writing the unit test. So in this video we are writing the integration test, and this notes repository required. Okay, and this class have notes DAO class instance as it's taking its in constructor parameter and using that DAO instance to perform the operations on the DB. So if we see this notes DAO, and this notes DAO is provided by our app database. So app database is inheriting from room database, and it provides the implementation class of notes DAO. So at this point our only purpose is to test our notes repository implementation. We don't want to test that no DAO class is working perfectly or not, because it's a third-party SDK. Our purpose is to test our code, not the third-party library, because it's already stable and it will be already working as expected. We just need to verify our implementation logic. So for that, what we will do is we create a fake notes DAO, which we create another class named as fake notes DAO, which is in testing we will call the testing doubles. So we will replace this original notes DAO with the fake notes DAO to perform our testing with our notes repository implementation on JVM on our computer only, not which allow us to run our test more faster. So our this notes DAO, by pressing Ctrl B, I'm go to the implementation of that. So this is defined in data, local, and notes DAO. So we will create the same package, core, data, local, and fake nodes DAO. And this will implement the nodes DAO method. By pressing Alt Enter, we will implement all the methods of this. And what we will do is we will pass the list of items to the constructor and use that in memory list to perform our operation. So get all would return the all items, and insert would add the items dot add, actually we okay, items dot add item and return the items dot length size as id and convert into long. And get item would return the items dot get. Update the item. To update the item, first we will find the specific index where that item is exist. So for items dot index of we have found the index. If item this index of first would return -1 if that item won't found. So if item index is equal to -1, then we won't do anything, otherwise we will update the item. And next is delete the item. For that same procedure will be where first we will get the specific item index, and if it's not null, like this, if it's not null, then we will remove at that specific index. So we have write the implementation of our fake nodes DAO. So now we will move to our test class, and in here first we will create 3 nodes. Title my first node, and create another one by pressing Ctrl D. Node 2, second node, and another one. Third node, and we will create a list, array list of all items, node 1, node 2 and node 3. And now if we see what is the first method which we want to test is the get all methods. So we will write get all, which would return 3 items because we have 3 items in our list. And we have 3 words to define the structure of our test. These are given, which is the provide the initial values or initial things to perform the test, which would be set up the repository, and when get all the nodes, then we are expected 3 items in response. So this is the structure. So first we will have our repository, implementation class, which would take nodes DAO, and we will create here fake nodes DAO and pass in the all items, and now pass this fake nodes DAO to our nodes repository implementation class. Now we have set up the repository. Now next we need to get the result from the repository repository.get all nodes, and we are having some issue here that we cannot call the suspend function from a normal function, because we only can call suspend from another suspend function or from a coroutine scope. So for that we need to wrap this function into run test. This method is defined in our this dependency Kotlin x coroutines dash test, and now we need to verify the result. To verify the result, we will use Google Truth library. And we are expecting 3 items. So, and next is we also need to annotate it with test to mention that this is a test function. So let's run it and see the response. Okay, so our test have been passed. So next is we need to test this get all with different variations. By after doing some different operations, we also need to verify that get all is returning us the exact value. Let's say if we are calling get all, and before that, what if we delete a node? Then in that case we are expecting 2 items in response, because we have 3 items in our list, and if 1 item is deleted, then the remaining items would be 3. And we also wrap this in run test, because all of our repository methods, by pressing Ctrl B, all of our repository methods are suspend functions. So here given will be our same as this one, and when delete a node and get all nodes. So we will delete our node 3. So for node id is equal to node 3 id, and it is nullable, so we are using this else operator here. Now we have deleted our node and now get the results. Then we are expecting 2 items in response. Now we will run it and verify. Okay, so our this test have been passed, and the next is what if we insert a new item. So for that we create another method, insert new node, and after that we are expecting 4 items. And now the same first step for this one as well, and in when part insert a new node and get all items. So for that, first we need to create another node here, node 4. By default, any node entity which we are inserting would be id would be null, node 4 and fourth node. So we will create our new node model here and insert the new node. Actually, I'm doing a mistake here. Node 3 node 4 dot to model, and now repository dot insert new node model, and now we will get the result of get all items. And in then part we are expecting 4 items, because currently initially there are 3 items, and after inserting new one we have 4 items in our list. So truth would be equals to 4. Now run it. And we have our 4 items in here, and as we have write 3 tests of our get all methods, and you may notice that there is one thing which is repeating between all 3 methods, is that whenever we are setting up the repository, so it is okay if we have only 3 test cases methods, but imagine if we have 20 test case methods in our this class, and if we want to do any single change to this constructor or this one, then we need to reflect that change to all of those 20 methods. So this would be a lot of boilerplate code. So what we need to do is we need to move it to a single place and call it whenever any test method runs. So for that, what we will do is we will create 2 data members here, fake nodes DAO and nodes repository implementation data member, and create a method here, setup repository, and move this code in here. Just need to remove this one comment, and now remove these code, and as we want to call this method whenever any of these methods run. So first way is that we will call the setup repository in the start of every this function, but another way is that we just use the annotation here before. So what will happen is whenever any of these tests run, then first this setup repository method will be called, then that particular method will be called. Let's say if we call this one, and this would be works successfully. So now next move to our next method which we need to test is the get method. So what we will do is fn get node first node item. So we need to get the let's remove this one, just make it get node and return one item. So we will skip the given part because we have already handled that in the setup repository, but in most of cases it may be possible that we have done some logic in we have tried some logic in setup or before method, but we still need to give the given part. So at this situation we don't need to give that, so we will start with the when part, get first node. So node id what we will do is we will do it like this, node 1 model get the node and now we are expecting the same node which we have in node 1 model. So let's run it. So we are getting the node and comparing the result with our node 1 model, because this is the expected node which we are expecting from this test. Okay, so here our test have been failed. So let's see what is the mistake, that the expected is not id1 and the found which we have is the second node. So we are doing some mistake in our fake nodes DAO. Go to our fake nodes DAO and the get item is returning the based on id, but this is returning based off the index. So first we need to find the index. Item index like this. If item index is -1, then in that case we will return null, and if it is not, then we will return the item at specific index, and for that case we need to make our this method should return the nullable. So we need to change this and need to go to our nodes DAO by pressing Ctrl V, and also need to change this one, and wherever we are using this method we need to find out by pressing Ctrl B, and we need to make this one as nullable and this one should be nullable as well. And to reflect that, go to our nodes repository interface and make it nullable as well, and where we are calling this get node method by pressing Ctrl B, we are calling it in two places, in use case and in our method. In use case, what we will do is we will make this return type method nullable, and where we are calling this use case execute method is in here, and if it is nullable then we will use else operator here and return from here. Okay, so a lot of changes to reflect this little change. So now come back to our implementation, actually in our test class, where it is. And now we are expecting null if not is found against that specific ID, and we will get the that specific not model, not one model. So let's run it. Okay, so it's working, and now let's verify it by passing an invalid not ID. Let's say not pass invalid not ID, return one item. So when pass invalid not ID, so let's say not ID is 25, and we will get the result by repository dot get and passing that invalid not ID. And now we are expecting null and response, so truth dot assert, which would be equals to null. Now let's run the app, run this test and see its response. So our tests have been working as successfully working. Now next we need to move to the next method in our repository, which is the insert method. So let's insert a node here. Name it as insert new node and return one item. Also wrap this one in run test. And in here new node, and what we will do is we have the node 4, which we will insert as a new node. So new node model node for 2 model, and now call the insert method and pass the new node model, and then we need to verify that the new node has been inserted in our repository or in our data source. So for that we will get the result, and repository dot get node by ID, and we will get the new inserted node ID from this insert method. So new node ID is equal to this one, and then we are expecting new node in response. So truth assert that result equal to new node model. Okay, and now run the test and verify. Okay, so our tests have been failed. So let's see the details that what is could be the reason, and the reason is expected not ID -1 and but was null. So what could be the issue? Let's verify the new node id which we are getting by running in debug mode. Okay, new node id is 4, and let's see our fake node DAO, that how we are inserting the item. So what we are doing is that we directly adding the item in the list and returning the size as the id, but when we are adding the items in the list, then this item won't contains the id which is null. So what we will do is new item id, and we will, let's say if we have 3 items in our list and we will increment it by 1, that the next id would be 4, and update item dot copy, and pass the new item id in it, and now updated item will be inserted it in here and return the new item id. And of course convert it into long, and now our test will be run as expected. But at here, when we get the new node id and our new node model don't have the id in it, because initially it is null in node 4, it is null. So for that, what we will do is we will update that like this, while updated node model would be new node model dot copy, and id is equal to new node id, and we will verify our result with this updated node model. Now we will run and verify it. So our test has been successfully passed, and the next case which we can do about return one item is that if we are providing the node id, then what will happen? Then in that case, what we are expecting for our nodes DAO, if we go to our nodes DAO, and here we haven't applied that check, that on conflict, we want to set the conflict strategy to replace that record. Then same would be done in here as well. Let's say if well, it's it makes our this part complex, but let's do this, that if item dot id node is equal to null, then what we will do is that in that case let's do in this way, that item dot id, then it's mean that it is not null. If it's not null, then this code of block will be executed, and item id we will name it, and what we will do is item index, find the item index by items dot index of is equal to item id, then the index will be found, and if items index is equal to -1, then we want to return from it and continue with this existing flow. Otherwise, we want to update that node. So item index and update that item in the list and return the item id from here. And convert it to long. And this is the part if we are providing the id, and this is the part if the id is null. So let's verify this first part. What we will do is we will create another method, insert existing node, insert node existing node as insert node, and in return we are expecting one item. So here in when part we let's say first is in the given part existing use existing node to insert. So we have, let's say, item 1 model note 1.2 model. So we have note 1 note 1 model, and we will pass this to insert. So insert node note 1 dot model, and in result in then part expecting one item, which is the existing one, or the one which is we are passing to it. So actually we need to get the result repository dot get and note 1 model dot id, and now we will verify that. Now let's run and verify that the result which we are getting against the node id is would be same as this one. So let's run it. So our tests have been verified, and we have received the correct node, and that node have been replaced by existing one. So now let's verify it in such a way that let's say we are passing a new node, and which have the id, and that node doesn't already exist in that. Then let's confirm that is also working as expected. So for that, what we will do is we will create another node 5. This id would be, let's say, 6, and let's name it as node 4. id would be 5 and 5th node, and in here insert node pass a new node with id which doesn't exist, which does not exist in, let's say, db, and return one item which would be the correct one. So for that, in given part new node with id new node model node 5.2 model, and when is insert the node and get the result. And then we are expecting one item. No, let's rename this to expecting the correct node item. Okay, and truth.assert result would be equal to new node model. Okay, now let's run it and verify. Okay, so our this case have been false. Let's verify what could be the issue, and the issue is that we are getting the null here, and which is not the expected result, which would be, let's go to our fake nodes DAO and see here that we have the id, and if that id does not okay, if item index is -1 means that it is not found, then in that case I think we need to, let's say, items dot add first new node id, and we will getting from this size plus 1, and updated item, I will name it as item id. Updated item would be item.copy and id new item id, and updated item will be passed, and then we will return the new item id from here and convert it into long. Now this would be work as expected. Okay, so still our test haven't been passed. So what would be the issue here? What would be the issue? New node model, new id, and okay, actually at this point we are still making a new node. So what we will do is, by to stop making it more complex, and let's say return the let from here, and what we will do is, we will, after inserting the code, we will get the updated node, let's say new node id, and we will update our node model. New node model dot copy, and id would be new node id, and now we will verify this against this new node id and updated node model. So let's run it. Okay, so our test have been successfully passed in this case, and the next method that we need to test is the update method, that our node updation is working as expected. So we will create another test method here, update node, return updated node, item, run test, and first in given part we will provide the updated node, updated node. So we will have the updated node, and we will update the node 1 dot copy, and change its title to this is updated title, and in let's make it small, and in when part we will update the node, and actually we need to also convert it to model and rename it to shift F6. Updated node model, and we have passed it into the update method. Now we will get the result. Dot get and updated node model dot id, and then we are expected updated node. So truth dot assert at result would be equals to updated node model. So we will get the updated node in response. So let's run it and verify. Okay, so this test has been passed, and next we will test this delete method, and what we will do is that delete node, and in return we are expecting null. So in given node id, we will delete the node 1. So node id and -1, because its id is node 1 id is nullable, and in when part delete the node. Now we will try to get the node against that id, and then part we are expecting null in response, expected null, because that specific node have been deleted from the data source. So let's run and verify. Okay, so our tests have been successfully passed, and we have tested all of our methods of the repository. And now if we want to run all of these tests at once, then what we need to do is we just need to right click on this file, test file, and run it, and all our tests will be run at once. Okay, so our tests have been run collectively, and we have get the result at one that our 8 test has been passed out of 10 tests. So let's verify that this test is not passed. So if we run it independently, then what would be happen? Okay, so independently this test case is running perfectly, but if we run all the tests collectively, then some of the tests are failing. So this is because that all of our tests are running on different threads. So when they are all simultaneously running, then there is the possibility that let's say one test case is inserting an item in the repository, and the other test case is just getting all the items and expected 3 items in response. But in the meanwhile, when the get all items test is finishes execution, before that another test case insert a new item. That's why there is a discrepancy between running these tests, because all of the test cases are simultaneously accessing the same repository, and there is no synchronization in that. And at this point, we just want to verify our test. We don't want to run it on multiple threads. To avoid that, we just want our test to be run synchronously, that first this method will be called, and then the other one, and then the other one. For that, what we will need to do is we need to define a rule here. actually the get role, and this would be instant task executor. We need to define that role, instant task executor role. And what this role will does that all of our methods will be called sequentially in a synchronous approach. So now let's verify all these tests again by running this whole file test. Okay, so our still we are facing the issue, and what could be the possible option? We are, let's say we have in this case expecting 4 items but was 3, and in this case okay, actually we need to move our this all items into this setup repository method, because whenever any test runs, then we want to make sure that all the tests initially would have these 3 items in the list of fake nodes DAO. So let's run it again and verify. Okay, so all of our tests have been successfully running. So in this video we have tested all the methods of our nodes repository. So I hope this would be meaningful information for you. So thank you for watching. Bye.